Hey everyone, today we'll be looking at Halo 4 and seeing if it's actually possible to complete the game without firing a single weapon. Just quickly, I hope you guys are keeping safe and well during this crazy time. Now this video was actually a blast to make. So anyway, I'll set a few of the ground rules for this challenge. I can only use melee weapons if and when they become available. I can't shoot using vehicles, and to make it a little harder, I won't be able to use grenades. Otherwise, it'll be too easy. Seriously, a few grenades can really make all the difference. Alrighty, without further ado, let's jump in. Halo 4 opens with the mission Dawn, and being the first mission in the game, I knew it would be the easiest out of all of them. Unfortunately, one thing I straight away noticed with Halo 4 was that you can't just run past the enemies to get to the next area like you can in the previous Halo games. Here you need to kill them, which resulted in me just bashing down so many grunts and elites, especially here in this first mission. So anyway, I thought that the first mission was going pretty well. That was up until I encountered a few suicide grunts. Now these guys tripped me up at first because I had no way to safely melee them. So I thought, stuff it, I'll rush them, which actually worked pretty well. My only issue going forward was that if I came across multiple enemies and got stuck in a corner, I'd most likely die. Other than that, we had to open a bunch of doors, prime a missile, and that was the level. So off to a decent start, I'd say. The next mission, called Requiem, starts with me forgetting where the hell to go and wandering around until I found the cave that opened to a beautiful vast Forerunner site. Here I grabbed the Warthog available and primed myself to drive over as many of the Covenant as humanly possible, except I was able to actually skip the Covenant infested area, much to my surprise, and get to the next section where an elite zealot with an energy sword was waiting. He was a bit of a pain considering I had to get within melee range, however he still went down, handing over his energy sword and active camouflage. Finally being able to use the energy sword actually was great, although I didn't want to waste it and then regret later on. After accessing the cartographer, I pushed on to a different area, where I pummeled my way to a Banshee, briefly using it to progress further in the mission, leading to another open area where I hijacked a Ghost and used it to mow down some enemies before reaching two Hunters. I tried to skip past them, however the door just wouldn't open, so ultimately I had to kill them. The key was being able to melee their back, which is how I did the most damage, whilst also trying to melee their head from time to time, stupidly. Luckily I had some help from a few Sentinels, so that actually went pretty well overall and was the final enemy I faced in that mission. Moving on to Forerunner, I had my suspicions that this was going to be one of the more difficult missions in the run, and that's simply due to the bloody Prometheans. The Prometheans are the sole reason why I think that this no shooting challenge in Halo 4 is the hardest compared to the other Halo games. In previous titles, the enemy that would have been most concerned during this type of run would be the Flood, as they are mainly really unpredictable. Although here in Halo 4, there are some situations where you cannot progress unless you kill all the enemies in the area or room, and this really becomes a pain when you encounter the Prometheans, as sometimes the crawlers and watchers are out of reach, either up against walls or flying. However, they can still shoot you from a distance, putting in enough damage so that you are always conscious of them, as you guys are seeing here. After punching through multiple Prometheans and destroying the first beam array, I reached the stage where the Covenant fought against the Prometheans. This part was super easy as I was able to grab a Ghost and get past basically everyone. From there I reached the second beam array where I was able to grab a Banshee, fly to the top, and the rest of the level was just bashing through both Covenant and Prometheans, before releasing the Didact and then fleeing away on the Ghost. Next up was Infinity, which started pretty well for the most part, just cutting through Promethean crawlers until I reached the area where the Chief has to defend a hilltop. This part was definitely the most challenging of the run so far, as there was no real place to hide, and many times the Knights, Watchers, and Crawlers were all together, making it really hard to take them down one by one. After patiently waiting for my health to go up, I continued attacking them until the waves stopped, and I was free to continue. What made that section worse was that whenever I killed a Knight, one of the other Watchers would just regenerate them, making me restart the process. Once those Watchers were down, it became way easier to kill the rest. From that point onwards, I began targeting just them. After taking down the enemies in the next section, we get moved to another area via Pelican. The game offers us a tank here, but of course I refuse and grab a Warthog, which has a Marine on the turret, which actually really helps. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's fine if the Marine is shooting since it's not me, so I continued using that to proceed to the Mantis section aboard the Infinity. I was actually pretty worried during this section as I thought my run would be over, considering the Mantis has a machine gun and missiles that the game wants you to use. The opening sequence, however, with the Mantis requires you to blast open a door. Thankfully, I was able to use its stomping technique and continue on with the mission. Here I took fire from all angles, but because the Mantis is a literal walking tank, I wasn't really worried about dying. This led to the end of the mission where I just had to stomp on the Covenant a few more times and destroy 3 gems. Reclaimer was one of the easier missions in this run, where the only encounters I had to melee were at the beginning and at the end of the mission. As throughout there are plenty of vehicles to use, where mainly you can just splatter the majority of your enemies. Early on though, you have to use a target designator, which doesn't stop the run because it's simply not a weapon, and only helps the Mammoth to fire on aerial targets, no fuck. Afterwards I had to crash my Warthog through multiple shield generators to progress onwards, Again, nothing too hard here. Once I was back on the mammoth, I had a heart attack. Simply, I poked my head outside the mammoth and realised that the whole bloody thing was flying off the map. Confused as hell, I thought I was high, but then I soon realised I don't smoke crack. Following the accident, I traversed through the interior of a Forerunner structure until I reached the librarian. Nothing game breaking there. Anyway, we go through a portal that takes us back to the battlefield. Here we get aboard a Covenant ship where the core is heavily protected, meaning that my melee isn't enough to destroy it, which you guys are probably seeing right now. Unfortunately, I had to resort in using one plasma grenade as a means to destroy the ship's core. The no grenades rule was something I put on myself to make the challenge harder, although in a situation like this where the core cannot be destroyed by my melee, the grenade was the only other option. Let me know if you think that ruins the challenge or if you think there was a way around that, but this was the end of the mission. The following mission, being shut down, was definitely one of the easiest missions to complete, as it basically involved using the pelicans to get from point A to point B, and the melee everything in between. The only difficult section of this mission was in the second tower, where the Prometheans tend to bunch together, making it hard to melee them all to get past and destroy the cores. Although many of the cores here were easily destroyed using a simple melee, which was great. Other than that, there were 2 hunters at the end of the mission, which took some time but still were beaten brutally. Composer is the second last mission that for the most part isn't difficult up until the latter sections. There were a few suicide grunts here and there, but being careful is the best way to approach them. Where the Composer is stationed is where the large firefight at the end takes place. Everything up until that point was fairly straightforward, although this end section was really tough. Besides having numerous ghosts, few odd grunts, and wraiths positioned around the open map, there were also a few banshees that arrived that unless you killed them, you couldn't progress and finish the level. Now, not being able to shoot really stuffs you up here. Fewer odd grunts, yep, easy. Ghosts, yep, easy again, just a hijack and splatter. Wraiths are slow, so they are an easy hijack. But Banshees, I couldn't get near them. Now the thing is, at this part of the level, there are multiple mantises where the player is supposed to use one to take down the Banshees. Without using a mantis, I had to hijack those Banshees and single-handedly pull out all the pilots and then melee them to finish the level. It was doable, just it took a bit of time because sometimes the Banshees wouldn't get close enough to me for a hijack, and then sometimes they randomly got super close, so a bit of patience paid off there. Then afterwards another wave of Banshees came in, however this time I was able to fly off and escape away due to the door finally opening, ultimately finishing the level. On to the final mission, that being Midnight. Everything was looking great, but when the mission started, everything fell apart. Unfortunately, the first quarter of the mission is done inside a broadsword, flying through the Didact ship. In the beginning, you need to locate the Composer, and in doing so, you fly through the Didact ship, which is armed with defense shields that can only disappear once you shoot their core. I tried numerous times flying right through, trying to go around, but ultimately it just kills you unless you fire the missiles available to you on the broadsword. In total, to complete this section to progress further into the mission, you need to use your missiles at least 5 times to destroy different shield generators and the turrets before entering the Didact ship. It really is a shame that you cannot complete the game without shooting, although for the rest of the mission it's fairly simple to get through as there is a gravity hammer available to use, making the remainder of the mission quite easy to complete. So that's the challenge completed, guys. Unfortunately it isn't quite possible, although on the bright side not a single weapon was used, besides the melee weapons of course. So technically we completed Halo 4 without firing a weapon, although you will need to shoot missiles from the broadsword in the final mission to actually finish the game. So ultimately, you cannot beat Halo 4 without shooting. Alrighty guys, it's going to wrap it up for today. I hope you enjoyed this Halo challenge. Now this video was inspired by Rocket Sloth and their awesome Halo challenges. Please check their channel, their link will be in the description below. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you found this video enjoyable or interesting at all, please like the video and subscribe if you want to support me that bit extra. Until next time guys, have a good one.